maybe just start off with a bit about yourself. Where do you work? Yeah.
So I'm Angela. I work for Savills, and I have been in the industry for over 10 years. I've moved through development, being in the sales side and being media booking as well. And currently I am the head of international marketing for residential department in APAC area. So I look after Australia, Japan, Singapore, Vietnam, basically all the countries in there except for China, and do a little bit of everything and hands in every pie. So yeah, love it.
Nice.
Jacob, I work for Time and Place. I'm the director of marketing there. I've been there 2.5 years at Time and Place. I won't say how long I've been working in the industry because that's really long time. Except I've got a person in the room that I've known since my 20s, Chris. But yeah, I look after all the marketing over multi-sectors for Time and Place. We are a multi-sector developer working in the commercial, industrial, residential, hospitality, retail, as well as we've got a self-storage business now. So we're expanding. We work over Sydney and Melbourne, but are looking at expansion to other states and other places.
Maybe we'll kick off. Talk to us a bit about what's Time and Place got on at the moment, what's coming up soon, and what's kind of working for you guys at the moment?
Cool. Majority of what we're focusing on at the moment, we've got quite a lot in the industrial sector, with a whole lot of JVs that we're working through with over New Zealand, Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland. We've also been working tirelessly over the last couple of years to commence a self-storage business that we're working with. Majority of our sites in Victoria, New South Wales, but also now in Queensland. So that's going on really well. For the more heavy lifting sides, we look at our residential sector. We've got just seeing people I know in the audience. So we've got our tower in Southbank, which has just settled, coming through. That's a whole mixed-use precinct site as well. Stephen and Georgia are actually selling that for us now. And we're just about to kick off a big celebration for our hotel, which is 188 keys in there, which is a partnership with TFE that we're working through at the moment. That's got 353 apartments in it, and we're about 85% sold through that. So it's going pretty well, but now we've got to mop up the rest of those.
And just before we go on to Angela, when you sold the 85% through, what are the things that were kind of working well for you guys?
Yeah, so
other than having a great agent, of course.
It was multi-channeled, the strategy for that. So the building's actually broken down into 3 main sectors. Our house apartments is the lower part of the building. That's more of our investment stock that we had through. We were looking more of a short-term model within those apartments as well. Middle areas is our residences. There are probably our middle scale 1s, 2s and 3s within there. That's where a majority of our stock is currently actually sitting in the remaining. And then we've got our additions at the top, which are larger 3-bedroom stock within that one. So it's been pretty much international and national sales down the bottom, local sales and regional sales in the middle, to then locals at the top.
Awesome. Cheers. And Angela, what do you guys got going on at Savills? And same to you, what's working for you?
Yeah, so in Victoria, we're working in projects in Footscray, in Box Hill, in Alphington. So we've got quite a variety there. We've got projects for every stage of the cycle and every budget. So that's really important. And in New South Wales, we're also working with Lendlease on one Sydney Harbour, and in Brisbane, we're also working on some smaller projects in Kangaroo Point. And also internationally, I'm working on a lot of branded residences, so hotel or lifestyle brand aligned. So Nobu in Da Nang, and even further in Middle East, we're working in the Maison Margiela residences in Dubai and Mr. C residence in Dubai as well. So very wide array, a little bit of everything for everyone. But closer to home in Victoria, what's really working for us is really understanding where our customers are at, really having a deep understanding of our lead nurture and our customer journeys, and having really strong marketing and content options for every stage of that.
One of the things we've noticed on the platform recently is we're seeing more and more buyer interest, and particularly investor cohorts from interstate looking at Melbourne as a result, I think, of the kind of pricing. How is the role of kind of channels versus retail? Like, what does that mix kind of look like for you guys? And yeah.
That's changed for us quite a lot over the last 12 months, especially for our Victorian stock. We do focus a lot on interstate now investment, which we've seen a lot of investment coming from Queensland and New South Wales into our Victorian projects, mainly due to the value proposition of Victorian stock versus the price rises increases for Queensland and New South Wales. So we are focusing a lot on those areas and partnering with a lot of blended agencies, not so much always channel. They have a retail and channel mix within there, but it's all about engagement and events with them, as well as creating content, making sure we have a clear messaging for our projects and delivering clear information to them. We spend a lot of time on our channel and investment presentations these days than what we used to, just because we see that as a key focus on what we need to do to deliver projects.
Yeah, I think the flywheel from a off the plan point of view within Queensland, where buyers have made money off the plan and then they kind of want to recycle that through. And I think for developers that are targeting Queensland channels in particular, Queensland's really been marred by a whole bunch of construction quality issues, and the fact that in Queensland everyone is panicking in the local market about not being able to find a builder. So I think one of the practical things that developers can do here in Melbourne, if they are targeting channels within Queensland, is to really hammer home the quality of the builder. And while that may be kind of, for Melbourne buyers, they assume that you'd have a builder. That's not necessarily the case in Queensland. So I think thinking through how do you meet the market where they are, where they're kind of within their local context within Queensland, and really hammering that home is kind of a practical thing you can do to encourage those kind of Queensland channels looking in Melbourne. How about you, Angela?
Absolutely.
Mix of channel and retail, etc.
Absolutely agree with that. We, in some ways, we're a channel ourselves for a lot of projects. To be honest, when it comes down to marketing to channels, it's over-communicate because they are also a filter in a way between you and the customer. So making sure that they know what your brand language is, where you are in the construction stages, what are the, small details, making sure there's clear communications to them about, the smallest things that can go, right or wrong in a construction. And really, again, reinforcing the quality of builds, because I think Melbourne has really upped its game. There was pre-COVID a lot of hubbub about, quality and smaller developments or smaller construction firms not being there, after COVID. So we've really lifted our game. I think every developer that I've worked with has really honed in on making sure the build quality is there and the deliverability is 100% assured.
And I guess with the kind of supporting collateral, how do you guys find balance between, and what are you focused on from an offline point of view with print and digital? There are just so many different things that you kind of need to be able to navigate, whether it's media platforms or print or display suites. How do you get that mix right?
It really depends on the project, and it really depends on answering for you as well. Depends on the project and depends on your audience. There are some projects that I would say if you really map out the the customer journey, they might come back 6-7 times before they can actually even begin to kind of conceptualize making a decision. So, having the physical product there, having a prototype in a build is really important, even if, that prototype is, hard to actually got to get hard hat on. They would really appreciate that. I think that's really important. But coming back into more of the media mix, both are incredibly important. The the journey is so long that you've got to make sure you've got touch points everywhere. They want to be able to see you on socials. They want to be able to follow, what's going on within, the company or the teams that are working on site. They want to understand, has someone else talked about this project? Has there been mentions of this in other places? So, having that, ping-ponging between different platforms is incredibly important.
We often see that buyers that are coming from interstate will spend more time looking at the videos and read even more content. So, I mean, how important, this, I suppose, same question for you in terms of like getting the media mix right, print, digital, channels, what are the things, how do you find balance between those?
We're spending a lot more on all different channels than we used to. There's a lot to say about technology and how that changed our industry in regards to it's not just a a one-way communication anymore. There is two ways of engagement within this. You need to really be positioning your projects and your business with what key areas that these people are interested in. Our South Melbourne project, I've got a lot of the team that are working on that in here as well. We've done a full integrated plan. We've got our traditional marketing collateral. We've done a full engagement strategy. We've got a full integrated digital plus traditional strategy. We've gone to full outdoor for that. We have a full events and engagement plan sitting for that. It doesn't come cheap, and it all is to drive back to the key displays that we've got delivering at the moment that have key technology within them, but still have the hard copies. So there's not one size fits all. You have to be able to do everything for everyone. Otherwise, you're actually going to miss out on an audience at the moment.
And how do you find, is the display suite still a critical part? And particularly when you're marketing it through channels, do you kind of still need to make the investment in display? And are the channels coming in, like the actual end buyers, are they coming into the displays or are they buying stuff sight unseen?
We're actually we're designing a display at the moment for a new project that has a quite a substantial channel allocation to it. And the display is critical, but it just needs to be designed a different way. It is for larger groups, larger presentations to come in. It's for hosting events and everything for them as well, that then drive down into their one-on-one appointments. So it's creating a space that they can use easily, that's not overcomplicated, but can be hosting in multiple different models and multiple different layouts.
So larger displays make it more for like an event space, is that right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, cool. And then for the ones that kind of the smaller projects, what would you recommend the approaches there? Because obviously not everyone has the luxury of being able to go big. So what do you do if you don't go big?
So we have a project in Manly at the moment, which is only 24 apartments. We built a full display in that project, and we're selling that through Bell Manly right now. We're the only one in Manly selling double figures at the moment. So having that there and having that being able to be used as a point of conversion for our market in Manly was really important, and has shown that you actually need, and it helps us with our conversion rates to have something tangible on the ground. We are just about to do another project in Manly, and we're back to that conversation of display, no display. With us as a business, time and place, we are pretty much going to, Bell have said, for this size of the development, no display. We're now pushing through and going, we'll actually do a display. We'll do a
display for that one as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then how about for you, Angela? What's the role of the display? Obviously, there's a ton of different display suite technology and VR and all the different things that you can do.
Yeah.
What role do you see it for your project?
I think even with, incredible technology out there, people still want to touch and feel, especially for that downsizer market. They really need to see something tangible. They really need to understand the craftsmanship and the finishes and fixtures that's being appointed. And I've seen some great displays that incorporate both, the larger channel point of view of being able to talk through a journey, a sales journey, coming through and having beautiful screens and interactive elements. But at the end of the day, people just want to be able to put their hand on what will be their future kitchen hosting their grandkids, especially for that market. But when it comes down to the smaller projects, there are some beautiful technologies, but, being able to maybe even send out finishes, we've seen that before. So send out some tile and stone samples and fabric samples of things like that is pretty tangible.
Yeah. And tell me, what role is content playing in general, and are you guys leaning into the written editorial, or is it video, or what's kind of the thing, and how do you convince developers that may be somewhat hesitant to jump in front of the camera? What's your pitch to them?
Definitely quite a few that's sort of a bit shy to get in front of the camera, but that might not necessarily be the right thing as well. It's about creating a narrative that really, can be developed upon as well. I've never seen so many incredibly well-researched buyers. They want to know more, and they already know a lot. So, it's gone that, here's a brochure, here's some, here's a floor plan. Thank you. We'll see you soon. They want to know everything.
And are you in the kind of camp that you believe the content should be put forward onto the internet and accessible to people? Or do you subscribe to the view of, no, they only get the content if they come in, they only see the floor plans inside the display suite?
You can't gatekeep. Yeah. And that's coming from a millennial who wants everything without putting my number in. So I get it, but you've got to be forthcoming, because there's a lot of trust to be built, and that's probably the only way you're going to do it right now. Yeah.
We don't have people at time and place that shy away from a camera. So we've got plenty of people that would be quite happy to jump in and do an interview. If anyone wants to interview anyone at time and place in the room, you'll most likely get a yes. So we do
Here you are,
So we do a lot of content around that. We do position ourselves with all of our director team to be front and center in all of our developments. We take a very hands-on role in everything that we design. So there isn't a project that Tim can't actually jump in and talk about from a direct experience for that. So we have the joy of being able to create a lot of content in regards to all of our partners within our business and external of our business. So we believe in more is more. So you need to be able to explain what we're delivering, and we'll even reproduce content that we've produced before in a different way just to refresh it back into the market, because these projects are on market for such a long time that you need to refresh these campaigns and say it in a different light.
I agree. I mean, anyone that's had the misfortune of following me on LinkedIn knows that I also subscribe to the more is more. Yeah. It's just so much of it's kind of just like staying top of mind with people and be able to communicate trust and things like that. So what do you think is the biggest thing holding back the Melbourne market, and what would be the green shoots you'd be looking for to suggest that we're coming into sunnier times?
Do you want to just start with state government? Foreign investment levies, the big build projects taking out labour. We could go on for hours for that particular topic. I think there's been some very big things with COVID, with the change of foreign investment levies that really crippled our market and has taken years for it to come back into that. We still won't have the big uptake from international markets while we've still got a lot of these levies actually running at this point in time as well. So we've pretty much... we got taxed, they get taxed, and we've crippled our market ourselves.
Yep. And what's your take on that, Angela? Obviously, you guys have good exposure with some of the international stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much the same. The taxes, levies, and barriers to entry, they really are quite present, though we still get a lot of interest. There's still a lot of interest from Vietnam, Singapore. However, they have to factor in that extra buffer. And that just means they might not be able to, invest in the right stock that they really want in Melbourne, and that pushes them to, cities like Brisbane. So that's a bit heartbreaking. However, I definitely want to reassure everyone that interest is still there. They're not walking away from Melbourne. They still see Melbourne as very much a bustling city with a lot of growth potential, great schools. So the interest is still there, but a lot of changes need to be made. They are really factoring 30 to 40% higher than the actual budget to be able to afford Melbourne.
Interesting. And what's one is there any emerging technology trends or things that you guys are thinking about for 2026 and beyond, and that may impact what you do day to day?
2 millennials up here, you're asking? For technology, we do use a lot of AI. I find AI, especially in a research capacity, becomes in very handy. Angela and I have probably been trawling through reports our whole lives, doing all of our desktop research, commissioning all different reports. AI can cut a lot of that down by a lot, especially in a strategic phase. So certainly with that, concept phases, artwork, messaging, that all becomes really helpful in regards to just building that out. Actually delivery of content as well, being able to utilize that to resizing, to recreating. AI helps a lot within those things as well. And then we've got our typical project planning and project management. That takes away... I kind of see for probably lower, more assistant-based admin staffing, but certainly allows you to do things a lot quicker in regards to project management and delivery.
Certainly on the media, I know we've got a lot of great media agencies in the room, and the best ones in my view are the ones that are embracing that kind of AI to develop way more creative, because at the end of the day, particularly platforms with social and whatnot, you're able to test high volumes of creative to large audiences, and it can really surprise you sometimes the ones that do work. What about you, Angela?
Definitely pro AI. I absolutely agree with you that it really speeds up a lot of processes and it really helps us to be a lot more nimble. When it comes to coming up with new ideas based on research, or even trialing things where a lot leaner in terms of having to just like jump on the tools. I have no problem jumping on the tools because I'm just using Canva to, quickly pull things together. But from a trends perspective and not necessarily technology perspective, I've been exposed to some great projects overseas that really leverage lifestyle and hotel brands. Obviously, you guys have got Hannah Street Hotel, and there's like so many great stories come out of that. I know that there's incredible developers in the room using wellness as a big point of view. Obviously, we are here at One Hotels with Seafarers. So, that's always been a really great selling factor and a really marketable factor to a lot of developments. But what I'm seeing overseas is that brand is brought in a lot earlier, and it is being leveraged off from all angles. So
William Sunrise, they had the one with was it Shangri-La?
Yes, yeah. So Shangri-La, they didn't end up going in there, so I don't know if this is the greatest example.
Forget that one.
But yes, but also Westside Place with Ritz-Carlton, another one I worked on earlier in my career. But, in Dubai, we just sold out a stunning development, and it was all based around Maison Margiela. So that's the fashion brand, and a lot of people lined up well with that. And they've got Mr. C, which is the Cipriani house, and in Vietnam we've got the Da Nang Nobu residence as well. So Melbourne, we're incredibly well-traveled community. We love our food. We love our going out and our lifestyle brands like that. I think there's definitely some room there that we can leverage off some of these larger brands, especially international brands that have not come here. Like again, One Hotels is being a massive attraction for Melbourne. So very exciting.
Awesome. Please join me and give these guys a round of applause. Cheers for sharing.